So as I was going to the bank, I'm always checking what articles came out. I'm always checking Wall Street Journal, Barron's, trying to take information from Tom Nash and Amit, steal their ideas. And as I was trying to get an idea for a video, I came across an article that Google is laying off employees and joining other big box companies doing the same exact thing. And then I said, hey, instead of robbing Tom Nash's Tesla video or Amit's Palantir new hire video, why don't I just make my own video talking about how many companies are laying off how many workers and try to correlate this to what's happening in the economy to try to make some sense of what's going to be happening in 2023. The article says, Amazon shrinks staff by 100,000 employees joining Netflix and Google in hiring slowdown. Guys, make no mistake about it. Forget about what Biden says. Forget about what Jerome says. We are most certainly 100% in a recession. The question is how deep or how shallow this recession will be. If it's shallow, that means we're going to have a quick bounce and maybe Q3 will be negative GDP, but Q4 is going to recover and 2023 is going to be really good for the stock market, not financial advice, just my opinion. But if we have a deep recession, then this thing can drag on till the end of 2023 or later, and this is going to be extremely bad for the markets. I think it's going to be shallow. Let's keep reading. Amazon was the latest company to discuss its belt-tightening effort this week. During its quarterly earnings call on Thursday, the e-commerce giant said that it would be adding jobs at the slowest rate since 2019. If you notice, this 2019 is right when the pandemic hit. So it makes sense that they were trying to hire people because there was a frenzy of people that were buying online. And now people are not buying online as much because they already purchased what they needed to do. Plus, it is a recession and inflation is still at peak. And they need to buy what they have to buy as in necessities as opposed to discretionary items. Alphabet, which is the parent of Google, which is also the parent of YouTube, which is also the company that pays me. And believe it or not, this is the first check that I've ever paid myself from YouTube officially. I'm probably going to make that video tomorrow. So please join me on this channel. I would love to share you how much YouTube pays me. I go over my monthly ad revenue. I go over my promotions. And I go over a lot of other things and trying to help you and show you that you can be motivated and make a side hustle as easy as YouTube, bringing in some extra scratch. Chief Executive Officer told employees this month that although the business added 10,000 Googlers in the second quarter, it will be slowing the pace of hiring for the rest of the year and prioritizing engineering and technical talent. Engineering and technical talent, the reason why they're doing that is because innovation, machine learning, AI is all going to bring us to the next generation. And that is certainly going to bring down supply chain issues, not only of today, but also in the future and in the distant future. As technology gets better, this fixes a lot of current day problems. If you want to ask me how or why, just think about the assembly line when it first started coming out. Before that, you had one person making everything. Then you get this assembly line, and then you have this amazing industrial revolution where you can make things at crazy scales. Well, now we don't just need an assembly line, but we need a smart assembly line. And the way to do that is machine learning, AI learning, engineers, technical talent, so on and so forth. That is also one of the reasons why I absolutely adore Palantir, helping with supply chain issues. Join me on this channel in 1 week. We will be doing the Palantir earnings. It's going to be a lot of fun. I will be with Arnaldo and Emmanuel. And I quote, like all companies, we're not immune to economic headwinds, he said. The hiring pause is part of the slowdown, Google said, to enable teams to prioritize their roles and hiring plans for the rest of the year. It had nearly 164,000 employees at the end of March. Amazon said that in April, it was overstaffed after ramping up during the pandemic and needed to cut back. And I quote, as the variant subsided in the second half of the quarter and employees returned from leave, we quickly transitioned from being understaffed to being overstaffed, resulting in lower productivity. Guys, hiring staff right now is actually fantastic for these companies. I know you guys think I'm full of shit, but I'm not. You basically can always overhire. It's very simple. You hire as much staff as you need, and it's better to be overstaffed than understaffed. Why? It's a lot easier to fire and let go of people if you need to than to look for people if you have to. Do you understand what I just said? The thing is, the people that are going to be left in the company are going to work that much harder. The people that are left with the company are going to work that much harder with that much less resources. So if a team had, let's say, 12 people, now it has 10 people, you're going to work just as hard. Why? You want to make sure that you're not the one who's going to be fired. Because at the top, there's a genius who's working, will never get fired. They're the top 1% of 1%. But if you're that top 10%, well, there's always a chance that you're going to get fired. So you're going to be working just as hard. When the economy ramps back up, these companies are going to hire the creme de la creme and maybe the new creme de la creme that are just coming out of universities, or the boy geniuses like Adam Bergman who could just do anything they put their mind to and make shit happen, right? So these companies are going to be better than ever when this recession ends. And honestly, this is what we call a purge from the workforce. And once you rehire, you no longer have all the shitty employees that you always wanted to get rid of, but you couldn't for various different reasons. Apple is planning to slow hiring and spending at some divisions next year to cope with a potential economic slump, according to the people familiar with the matter. But it's not a company-wide policy, and the iPhone maker is still moving forward with an aggressive product release schedule. Apple had 154,000 employees in September when its last fiscal year ended. Carvana Corporation, that's like the car company if I'm not mistaken, right? An online used car retailer laid off 2,500 people in May, about 12% of its workforce. Carvana is very tricky. Its whole model is like on used cars. The problem is if you go on a Carvana website, right, and you want to buy a car, let's say you want a pickup truck. If there's only 2 freaking pickup trucks, what the hell are you going to do, right? And the problem is there's not enough supply for people to buy stuff. There was massive issues with actually getting products of cars. There's only so many used cars that people are selling. And since people are not buying because they're mad expensive and not leasing because it's so expensive, well, people are just keeping the cars that they have. And the longer you keep the cars you have, that means that the supply is constrained all that much more. Carvana is probably a terrible business right now. I didn't go over their financials, but it's probably shit. Coinbase is cutting 18% of its staff to prepare for an economic downturn. The CEO, Brian Armstrong, said in a blog post, and I quote, "While it's hard to predict the economy for the markets, we can always plan for the worst so we can operate the business through the environment," he said. The company ended the quarter with around 5,000 employees. Compass Incorporated, a real estate brokerage platform, is eliminating 450 positions, about 10% of its staff. Gemini Trust, a cryptocurrency exchange founded by Bitcoin billionaires Cameron and Tyler Winklevoss. Those are the people that co-founded Facebook and lost it, but they still made a shit ton of money. Those are those 2 really handsome 6'5" twins that rode a lot. Okay, so they are reducing 10% staff in June, and TechCrunch reported that the company laid off another 7% in July. Puff, a grocery delivery, is reducing 10%. Lyft, Lyft told employees it has reining in hiring in May after its stock dropped precipitously. The company went further on July 20, announcing plans to shutter its car rental business and cut about 60 jobs. Okay, not so bad. Meta Platforms slashed plans to hire engineers by at least 30%. 30%. Microsoft, the company had 181,000 employees in 2021. More recently, the software maker cut some jobs, less than 1% of its total. That's not bad. Microsoft is a solid company, man. You see, Microsoft, you're always going to need computers. You're always going to need the Microsoft suite, and you're always going to need some type of cloud. And Microsoft, although it's not the best cloud or the biggest cloud, I believe AWS is, it does have a large share. Microsoft is always a solid business, and I always think it's going to be a $1 trillion and multi-trillion-dollar business in the future. Niantic, the Pokemon Go video game, I'm not going to talk about that. OpenSea, an NFT marketplace, laid off 20% of its staff, of course. Peloton laid off roughly 20% of its staff. Redfin, 8% of its staff. Robinhood, 9% of its staff. Rivian, could make an overall reduction of around 5% of its staff. Salesforce, the cloud computing platform, has been slow hiring and reducing travel expense, according to a leaked memo reported in May by insiders. It had nearly 7,800 employees at the end of April. Shutterfly, I don't know who you are, but they're reducing. Shopify, 10% of its workforce is gonna get reduced, 1,000 employees. Snitch Fix, Tesla, we all know that they're reducing 10% of its salaried workers, but they are most certainly increasing their factory workers. Shout out to them. Tunnel Systems, I don't know who they are. Twitter, of course, is laying off workers. Unity Software, I hold Unity, man. They're not doing too good, but that's okay. Unity Software, Vimeo, Wayfair, Whoop, and so many other companies. So the question is, why are they laying off people and what's going to happen next? Well, this is exactly how a recession happens. You raise interest rates to make things more difficult. As inflation goes up, people spend less. People are going to spend only what they must spend to survive. Now, that means a very different thing to every single person, what you need to survive. But as you only spend what you need to survive, the economy starts slowing down. In the same time, the interest rates are going up. Eventually, as the economy hits a certain point, interest rates will stop going up and you will start lowering interest rates to ramp up the economy to bring it back up to a positive level. And that's a rinse and repeat of what happens every 10 years or so, whatever. So what's happening right now is very natural and so very much needed. I don't know if you saw the tweet. I believe it was deleted after, but the Federal Reserve literally said, we need to have layoffs. We need to fire people because that's how you take care of a recession. Eventually, the economy is going to go back. And what I see right now is exactly what needs to happen. We're pulling the Band-Aid off. Let's move in the next direction. Now, there is something called what's bad for the economy is very good for the stock market, because when the economy peaks at that recession or dips to the lowest point of that recession, that's exactly when the Federal Reserve is like, hey, hold on a second, let's pump the brakes of actually raising the interest rates. Let's calm it down to neutral and start bringing down the interest rates. And when the economy is bad, that's when you ramp up the stock market, and the stock market's going to go berserk. Some people think that this might have already happened. I do believe that 2023 is going to be great for the stock market, and we're going to be way in the double digits for returns for the S&P 500, for the NASDAQ, so on and so forth. I've covered this in many of my other videos. Guys, thank you so much for joining me on this journey of YouTube. Thank you so much for watching this channel, and thank you so much for actually hitting the like and subscribe. And please don't tell Amit or Tom that I rob their videos whenever I get a chance. Thank you and have a great day.